Today, we're going to be focusing on using discovery and person-centered planning for a good job match. And let me just get the view full screen. There we go. Okay. Lori, can you turn your volume down? All right. Now, let me just put it on record and we'll be ready to go. Okay, we're going to have three people assisting us today with our presentation. One will be Tracy Whitehorse, likes to go by Buddy, and one will be Toby Bazan, and our third and presenter will be Melanie Miles. So again, this webinar series is being offered thanks to a grant from the California Department of Developmental Services in collaboration with North LA County Regional Center. One of the requirements of this grant is that we administer a series of questions both before and after the webinars. So we ask you to please complete our survey questions at the end of this webinar, as well as our follow-up questions that will be emailed to you in April. And thanks in advance for completing these surveys. Your privacy will be protected in the responses. Avenues SLS has recorded sessions that have been translated to Spanish, Farsi, with ASL, American Sign Language, and Armenian, and you can access them either by taking a picture of the Scan Me QR code that's on your screen, or you can give an email request to cieinfo@avenuessls.org, and then we will give you the link to sign up. Hello, Toby. How are you?
Good, Scott.
Okay.
I'm taking a nap at elsewhere.
All right. Okay, cool. Well, we're just getting started, and I'm going to start us off with some of the tools, and then we'll get to you.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Okay, Scott. Took a while to get some gas.
All right. So today, March 28th, again, we're going to be focusing on finding a good job match using discovery and person-centered practices to identify both job duty and environmental preferences, and using job carving and community connections to promote success while developing and assessing your skills and talents. Next week will be the final week of our webinar series, and that will be April 4th, where we're going to focus on bridging the gap, focusing on job development strategies to promote diversity in the workplace, and how hiring workers with disabilities can improve morale and positive company outcomes. And again, if you know of anybody that's interested in registering for the final webinar, or if you just want to view a little bit more about what we do here at Avenues SLS, you can go to our website, which is www.avenuessls.org. So today we're going to be sharing a couple of tools with you, and you should have received them by email if you signed up and registered for this. And please share with other individuals that either you support or family members or other colleagues that you think they might benefit. And again, these two tools will assist with the discovery process. And again, discovery is a term that's being used nationwide that really talks about how do we discover what the unique talents and skills are of each potential worker, and what environments might be and might provide a good job match for each individual. And then the tools we're sharing will also incorporate person-centered planning to help find and identify a good job match. One of the things that we found is that for many of our youth, if our youth do not have a lot of experiences in having jobs in their past, whether they're youth or whether they're adults, then it's going to be difficult for them to undergo any type of vocational assessments that are where they would have to answer a whole lot of questions. And the tools we're going to use really involve more the team members, the family members, and professionals that really know the person best, including that person, him or herself. And together, you can answer these questions to find some good information that will help you with that discovery process of identifying what works and what doesn't work for each individual. So the two tools that we're going to go through today include the one-page support guide and an individual job assessment. And we've used both of these tools for years and actually even decades for a couple of them. And we'll go through them. So the one-page support guide, you should have received an email with a Word document with this on it, along with a short list of instructions that we're going to sort of go through now. And this is something that we recommend that you complete for each individual that's looking for a job. We utilize this one-page support guide both to assist with the interview process, to assist in providing information to an employer and to coworkers, and we also use it to train job coaches because we realize that sometimes if somebody has or needs a job coach, that there is some turnover, that sometimes there will be a new job coach coming in. If you're working with, let's say, Department of Rehabilitation or Voc Rehab, you may actually receive a new job coach when you first begin a job. So that job coach will be new to the individual. And this is a good way to sort of bridge the gap, is by completing a one-page support guide and then updating it every year, at least, when you get new information that would be helpful. So again, what you're going to do is you're going to put down the person's name. It'll say, for example, if it was mine, I'd say Scott's one-page support guide, and maybe a picture of me, a picture where you look okay, not one of the DMV photos. And then on the far right, it says, what do people appreciate about me? So you're going to ask the person as much as they're able to provide that information. So they're going to say, what are some good things about you? Ask the family, what are some good things about the person? Ask the person's peers or other people that may support them and that have known them for a while to give them some good information. Okay? But again, you want it to be good stuff about you. Then down below in the next section, it says, what is important to me? So for each individual, you're going to say, these are things, some preferences this person has. This person may, for example, on the job, they may always need to have their communication device or their tablet with them. Or what's important to me is having a paid job and getting a paycheck. Okay. What's important to you, Toby? What kind of things did we put on there?
Like what?
Oh, come on. What's important to you? We're going to go through your section and you're going to share a little bit of this in your presentation, right?
Right, section 8, housing functions.
Yeah, that's the thing that's important to you, and we're working on that, huh?
Okay, wrap it up. You and Laurie should wrap it up.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up with our legislators.
Yes.
All right. And then what's important for me? Well, maybe what's important for me aren't always things that I'm really thinking about. They might not be my preferences, but what's important for me is maybe I need to go to the gym every day. Maybe I need to watch my health and diet. What's important for me?
Want to you and Laurie under the bus with the oak trees.
Yeah, that's not important to us, is it? We don't want to deal if that's on one of your jobs, huh? Over at Sloan?
It was something I learned from you and Laurie.
Okay.
I think something we're just joking when chopping the oaks down.
And would that be a good thing to do, is chop oaks down in Santa Clarita?
No.
How come?
You'd be in trouble.
Get a fine, right?
Get a fine.
Okay. And then, Toby, you're going to talk about this one for sure. What works when supporting me and what doesn't work when supporting me? And these are real simple things that are really helpful whenever we have turnover in support staff, whenever we have turnover in job coaches, whenever somebody is moving from one class, exiting one class and transitioning to another one where they're going to have new professionals in their lives. It's also really good because it's good for coworkers to have in the workplace, and also any supervisors or the boss, whoever that boss or employer is. It's good for them to have that information about what works and what doesn't work in supporting people. I know that one thing, Toby, that you've taught us is you don't really like to be in enclosed spaces. You don't want to just work in a cubicle all the time, right?
Right.
You want to be able to have a little room, a little fresh air,
Yeah.
some spaces to move around.
Yeah.
Okay. And other people might be opposite. So again, what works and what doesn't work when supporting me? And then the last column is, how does this person learn best? Okay. How do they learn and process information best? And what's the best way to support me? So in my case, I tend to be more of a visual motor learner. In other words, I learn best by seeing and doing. So if you show it to me, give me an example, and then let me do it a couple times, I'm usually good to go. But if you just talk to me, blah, 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 right?
Right.
Then it doesn't stick. I really need to see
Or
it,
repeat.
or even repeating doesn't really help me. You got to show me and let me do it. Okay.
Okay.
I'm not great with that verbal. Now, some people are. Lori's a very good verbal learner. She's an auditory learner. She learns, if you give her some verbal instructions, she's great. Where I need a little bit different information. I need it presented to me visually.
Okay. Sometimes as long as she says the same thing,
Well, does it helpful or not helpful?
not helpful.
Okay, see, that's good to know, right?
Right.
Okay. The next tool that we're going to talk about, and this is something we've developed and modified over the years. If you look in the real small print at the bottom, we first started using this tool back in 1988 because we were receiving a lot of referrals from people that had come out of state institutions and that had no job experience at all. Also, we had people that were coming out of our special education schools, and a lot of them were special education centers. And again, even when they came out at age 22, they had zero experiences.
Zip, zip, nada.
Zero zip nada for either volunteering or paid experiences or attending community college classes, zero experience. And many of the folks also didn't communicate traditionally. In other words, they didn't have the verbal skills that Toby and I have, but that may be traditionally what we call nonverbal. And so we had to figure out a way to find out what might be a good match for this individual. And it's a 2-page sheet, and I'm going to break it down on the next slide. We're just going to go through it piece by piece. Okay, so again, for this individualized job assessment, we're going to want the person to put their name, or we put their name on it, the date we interviewed them, and then who did we interview? Now, with Toby, I can interview Toby and he can let me know some things. But then Toby might also say, hey, you can interview my sister. She knows me pretty well. You can interview Eric. He knows me pretty well. Or maybe Charles, right?
Yes.
And he would trust that they would say some things that would be helpful as well. Okay. If the person isn't able to share who they might want to communicate this.
We do not use the H word for nothing. I told Lauren.
Well, we'll see when we get to your presentation. Okay. All right. So we might want to interview family members and interview maybe previous teachers or other support staff that have known the person for a while. Okay. And then how long is the interviewee, the person we're interviewing, how long have they known the person? What's the relationship to that person? Is it a family member? Is it the person themselves? Or is it some sort of a paid professional? That gives you a little background. Then these are the questions that we're going to ask. And if you've known the person for a while, you should be able to answer these just based on your experiences with that person. So again, we want to find out, does the person seem to perform better indoors or outdoors? Where do they sort of enjoy being? Where would they tend to want to spend time? And if we could find something they could get paid at, what would it be? Where would it be? do they seem to perform better around lots of people or not too many people? Do they prefer to have jobs where they're standing or sitting? Do they prefer to have jobs where they're able to move around or be mobile, or actually maybe moving from one room to another, moving from one location to
Or
another?
stationary,
And what's stationary?
like move,
Staying in one place.
stay in one place.
Do you want to stay in one place or do you want to be able to move around a little bit?
Move around,
Yeah, so you like it more when you can move around where you're not stuck in one place.
right?
Okay. And then does the person prefer a loud environment or a quiet environment?
Or silence.
Or silence? And it could be somewhere in the middle. Maybe it doesn't matter as much to certain people, and that's fine. Do people want to be in an environment or be involved in some sort of work where it's always really busy or not too busy?
Not too busy.
Okay, because sometimes people get a little stressed if it's just constant action all the time and you're constantly have to produce and do stuff. So you might want to gauge the environment that way too. Does the person like to be super busy or not so busy in their work environment? And then as far as physical activity on the job, does a person want to engage in jobs where it's very physical, where they're pushing things, pulling things, carrying things, lifting things, or more non-physical duties? Maybe more duties with very lightweight activities or working on a computer.
Or clothing shelves.
Or clothing shelves if it's not really heavy, right?
Right.
Okay.
Or stocking shoes on a shoe rack.
Yeah. And then what hours does the person prefer to work? Do they tend to be more of an early morning person? Do they tend to perform better midday? Or are they more of an evening person? And it even could possibly be the late shift. Okay. So that could be something that you looked at depending on when the person's awake and what they like to do. We support a couple of individuals that have some mental health issues, and we'll just say it, in addition to their intellectual and developmental disability, they also have schizophrenia. Now, as a result of the schizophrenia, they take some medications that requires them to sleep quite a bit. So they have a longer sleep period, sometimes 10 or 12 hours a night, in order to get their needs met. But that means that maybe a 7 a.m. job might not work. Maybe something that starts at 10 a.m. might be better. Okay. And maybe
Or 11 or 12.
Right. And something that's late night might not work as well. So it all depends on the person. Another job that we want people to be ready to answer is, are they willing to work on weekends? Many retail jobs, jobs that are open to the public, or that serve the public, are also open on weekends. And one of the requirements is often that the person, any new hires, is willing to work at least one day on the weekend. So that's something you've got to be ready to answer. And you want to find that out in advance to see if that's something that's going to kill your opportunity to work at the job. And if so, we want to let the person know that, hey, if you're not willing to work at least one day on the weekend, they're not going to hire you. So do you still want to interview? Are you willing to maybe try it out at first, see how it goes? Maybe you can get a preferred schedule after you've been with them for a period of time. See if those things are options. Then we also want to try to define or describe the person's fine motor abilities. What can they do with their fingers, with their hands, things that they can do at a stationary type of job? And then also, are they able to perform gross motor skills? What can you push or carry or move? And that would require more of your muscles. What's your expressive communication ability? Okay, do you need any adaptations, or do you have any adaptations on the job that will assist coworkers and supervisors to communicate with you and vice versa? Okay. And again, are there any communication adaptations used? Does the person use or need sign language or interpreting to assist? Do they use a tablet or a voice output device, or do they require an interpreter or perhaps a job coach to assist with communicating with the public or whoever else is there?
Almost my turn.
Almost. Do you want to use the restroom or you get a drink?
I'm good.
Okay,
What kind of drink we have?
just water.
I already had one there.
Okay. All right, you're coming up.
Hmm.
Okay, and then what is the
Any
person's,
you can
what is,
speed it?
no, we're gonna take our time.
Okay, that's true.
Okay,
How much I'm
what is the person's receptive language ability? How do they best receive and understand information? And also, how does the person learn best? For example, are they more of an auditory learner? They learn by what they hear. Are they more of a visual learner? Do they learn best by what they see or modeling or demonstrating? Does the person learn by movement? Are they more of a kinesthetic motor learner where they learn by routine? Or could it be a combination of that? Also describe any self-care, hygiene, or toileting support needs that the person may have or need on the job. We went briefly through last week that IHSS, in-home support services, is a service that many individuals have and receive and are eligible for. And sometimes people that have support needs, personal support needs, physical support needs, that they may need assistance in the restroom and things like that, that those supports can be provided through IHSS in the job setting by a person that would come in that would meet up with the person and provide assistance to. So that might be something that you might be able to share in an interview to say, hey, I've got somebody that would be coming in. I would do this on a break or do this at my lunchtime, but they will assist me in the restroom. And do you have a restroom that's accessible for me or something I can utilize? And then 17, are there any behavioral or communication concerns in the community or around public? And please differentiate from behaviors that happen maybe in a classroom, behaviors that happen in the program, or in home settings, because we know that behaviors in the community are often a lot different. And as we've shared with some of the people that have some good job experience, we've found that a lot of people behave a lot differently when they're in congregate segregate programs, where we see a lot of behaviors, than when we get people more individualized job matches that meet their needs, where we see the behaviors actually taper
I'm
down.
gonna get someone.
Are there any vocational related skills that the person has that could be utilized in job settings? Those things are also good to note. What are the person's hobbies or job interests? Those are also good to note because that's something that you'll want to explore with the person. And then what supports will he or she need to be successful? Will they need a coach with them? Will they need more preparatory support, like what Jareth talked about a few weeks ago? He doesn't prefer to have a coach on site, but he would rather have somebody review the expectations and prep him for the job before he gets to work, and then maybe have somebody that he can call or text as needed, as long as he knows which coworker or supervisor he would go to for support. And is there any type of assistive technology that will be used or is available to the person to bring to the job site that could be used to assist them, whether it's with communication or other aspects of that job? Okay, so all of these questions, even though there's a lot of questions, I would think that most of the questions you should be able to answer if you've spent a good deal of time with the person, if you know that person fairly well. And it's better to interview multiple people, the person, him or herself, and then the people that know them best, including family, friends, and others. Okay, try to get as many perspectives as you can, because that will help you to think outside the box as you look for different job opportunities. And you'll get more perspectives and more ideas of things to look at the more people you interview. Again, finding a good job match is important. One of the examples that we had from a long time ago is that when I first started getting people jobs, we had a young man that did not do well. He would sort of obsess on some things when there were females in the environment that had pantyhose or fingernail polish and really dressed up. He would want to go and ask them about their fingernail polish and about their pantyhose and different things that got to be they were really just questions that he had. It wasn't necessarily sexual in nature, but it appeared really odd. And he got fired from some jobs because he would ask people about what they were wearing and what type of fingernail polish they had. And one of the first jobs that we got him that lasted for quite a while, for several years, and he was working pretty much full time, was at a truck stop. And the reason we got him that job is because there weren't a whole lot of girls in high heels and pantyhose coming to the truck stop. And what this young man did is he cleaned all the restrooms and did all their custodial kind of stuff. And he was able to make a paycheck, which he loved. And he worked 5 days a week and pretty much full time. Again, people can blossom with a good job match. On another job match, just like Toby just recently said that he likes to move around. We had a couple other people that really like to move around. They didn't want to work in one place. And one of the jobs that offered that was a job at a grocery store where they wanted every item on the shelves brought forward so it was facing the customers and turned the right way. And they got a chance to also do go backs, which is putting items back, returning items that the customer didn't want. And they got to move around. And this was a great opportunity to allow the person to move around, to move things into the right place, but also to have a valued job that they could do. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but we want to try to ensure that motivations to work are in place in order to promote success. So the questions we want to ask as we start this job development process are: how will working make a significant and noticeable difference in the person's quality of life? We want to help that person to find an opportunity to spend their first paycheck on something they want. Having their job coach, if they have one, have their job coach go with them to do this to help spend that first paycheck is a good idea. Because sometimes the person associates their job coach with like, oh, that's the person that's hard on me and always keeps me focused. And we want to make sure that they start associating the job coach with the good stuff too, which means, hey, having a job coach helps you get that paycheck. So maybe, yeah, go with them and they can help you experience that fun of spending half that first paycheck. Another thing that has been great for some people is we've supported a few girls over the years, including one now, that really enjoys the value of having a working girls' lunch. She knows that when she works, she can afford to go out to eat afterwards and she can eat out instead of brown bagging it. And that's really important to her. And she knows the reason why she gets that working girls' lunch is because she's working and she's able to brag about that. It's also helpful to help people to develop plans to save some of their work money for fun things, not just the regular rent and bills, but something that they want to save up for, something that's important to them that they might not ordinarily be able to get if they didn't have that extra work income that comes from having a job. All right, who's up?
Me? I was waiting for you to pay me for this, Scott.
Here we go. Well, you get paid afterwards. I don't think anybody gets paid before they work.
That's true. Afterwards. Hi, I'm Toby Basan, and that's me bell ringing.
Okay. And how long have you bell ring?
About 12 years.
Okay. But that's seasonal, right?
Yeah, seasonal.
So you only do that like in November, December.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also do some landscaping for Charles's house too.
I think we got some pictures of the things that you do. Hold on. Okay, so share a little history, Toby.
I lived with my mom and my grandpa and my grandma. When I grew up, I had some issues in school. When I was little, and I had some issues in the school community too. When I was 15, I had an issue with the police because because my mom had a warrant for her arrest.
Well, I don't know. You don't want to go into that kind of stuff. But you had some issues with the police, right? And where
Yeah,
did you end up?
Fairview,
Now, what's Fairview?
Fairview State Hospital in a locked residential unit.
Okay, and these are some pictures of you from about when, did you say?
85 and 86, around that time.
Okay, so when you're like 5 or 6 years old, right?
Yeah, I had a big old mop.
Yeah. Okay.
I was getting tired of the mop.
All right. But that's what you had. And that's when actually we first met you back then at a social rec program. And later we got connected, found out he was in a state hospital, and this is what we found out. So tell us what it was like.
I lived at Fairview State Hospital from age 15 until I was 27 when Mark Ken and Joaquin Perez gave me space and got to walk around the campus, which was better being inside the lock or getting into lock arguments on a locked residential unit. I remember the day I was with Joaquin and Jesse and Mark and Ken and Rai Hannah, the Egyptian guy that was working there.
Well, either way, we're not going to get into all
they
those
did
names. We're only going to talk about the good stuff, right?
Yeah, the staff that was working there is retiring
Okay.
because she had her nose broken because a soccer ball was being played in the hallway.
All right. Well, what were some of the issues that you had over at Fairview?
So sometimes I get a little bit nervous when I am in closed spaces or if people are being pushy, if people get in my face. I get very nervous, and Fairview, they would tie me down and 5 points when I had an issue. They didn't understand that I just got more nervous when they did that.
So tell people what are 5 points?
Your ankles, your wrists, your throat on the coil box springs.
And they tied you down there like that?
No, sir.
No, that's what they did, right?
Yes, sir. They did that.
Do you think they should do that to people?
No, sir. That's crapola and that's bullshit. That's
We're
BS.
recording this.
Okay, that's BSing. Laurie said it's BSing too.
Yes, I'm sure she didn't say the whole thing, right? Okay.
She said it the whole thing at Sloan on Monday. After I got out of.
I'm listening to you, Toby.
After I.
Yeah, she's listening.
You listening, Laurie?
I am.
Laurie, what time you going home tonight?
Okay, Toby, stick to the script here.
Okay.
So after you got out.
After I got out, they asked me to present at Fairview until they found out I was going to talk about being in 5 points. Blah blah blah, the blah blah blah, the blah blah blah, the blah blah blah, blah blah blah, and how they should stop doing that to people. They didn't want me to come. They aren't being truthfully about what they did to people.
Yeah, that's for sure.
There was me and a sugar pine and Douglas fir next to it.
Yep. You love trees.
Yes. Disability Rights of California told Fairview they had to post our rights on the wall. I was able to read what it said, and I wrote letters saying I wanted to live in a community. Again, Avenues got a referral from the regional center because of one of my letters, and they helped me get out in 2007. I slept under my bed at Fairview State Hospital for 13 years. They didn't realize I was acting out because I was nervous. They just thought it was a disability issues. And my first community doctor visit with Dr. Darden, and I was too nervous to get out of the car. So Dr. Darden met me in the parking lot for my appointment. Once I got out of Fairview, Dr. Karan helped me take some to get off psychotropic medications and take something anxiety instead.
So where do you sleep now?
On my bed.
Okay, and that's better, huh?
Yeah. I moved out of Fairview in October of 2007. When I was 27, I moved into own apartment.
So now you let people know when you're feeling nervous?
Yes.
Okay, so what works when supporting you?
Let me squash things, give me some space. I prefer working outdoors or in places with lots of space. Show me what to do so I can learn best.
So what does it mean to squash things?
Quiet. I wanted to shut up and be quiet and muffle the sound.
So it means you don't want to talk about it yet, right?
Right.
You just say, let's squash it. That means we maybe talk about it later, but at that moment you're too nervous to talk about it.
Yes.
Okay. And that's really helpful because then he lets us know when he's a little nervous, okay, I want to squash that for right now, right?
Right.
Okay.
I think that the Republicans and the Democrats need to settle down and deal with the housing crisis. Rents out of control.
Yeah, rents keep going up, and that's a pain, isn't it?
Yes.
But that's why working's important to you. You got to have enough money to pay that rent and your bills.
But we need rent control.
Now there's rent control, but they still raise it a little bit every year, and that gets to be a challenge, doesn't it?
Yes. I have presented over 1,900 students at Cal State Northridge, Sacramento, California, Sacramento State, and CLC. I also keep my community clean by volunteering. I received the 2014 Volunteer of the Year from LA County Plaza Nature Center. Barrels got full of water and mold damage.
Yeah, you got a little damage, but we got a picture of it anyhow, right?
Yes, we did.
And that's with Russ Kimura over from the Nature Center, right?
Yeah. I worked at Six Flags as a park attendant for 6 years.
Yep, and that was sort of your first regular job, huh?
Yes.
And that's a job a lot of people have in Santa Clarita, one of their first times. Okay, from the first entry-level jobs people get.
I make extra money on my days off. I love to recycle and make money. It's a win-win. I know that I need to turn in my recycling each day so it doesn't track bugs or rodents.
And see, I took out the H word. Good, huh? You want to talk about that or no?
No.
Okay.
Laurie don't want to be bothered with the H word.
Okay.
Laurie wants to squash that word.
Okay, she's not going to talk about the hoarding. Okay, good.
For the last 3 years, this year's gonna be my 4th year.
Wow. Okay.
I have had a job to setting up and taking down furniture for the group at the lodge. I did that today.
That's right. You got to clean up tomorrow again, right?
Yes. I like to work outdoors where I have more space and freedom. My job at Slum Canyon Road. And we're talking about chopping the oaks down.
Oh, you are quite the joker.
I think I know where that comes from, Scott.
We're not gonna talk.
I worked as a bell ringer over the holidays. I am their best producers.
Yeah, you always have a good production there, right?
Yes. I enjoy working and making money to help pay for my bills and buying things I want. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, you can certainly put it in the chat for Toby while he's here. Laura, if you're monitoring the chat, if anybody's got any questions for Toby.
Yes, I am. I don't see any
Yes,
yet.
I am. I was trying to repeat what Laurie said. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay, Toby, you must have done an excellent presentation. I don't see any questions for you at all. Congratulations.
Thank you, Laurie.
So you can head out and tell Melanie she's up next.
Okay.
I'll see you out in the hall.
Am I free to go, Laurie?
I'll talk to you in the hall.
All right.
All right, see you, Toby. Thanks. Grab your water.
Oh yeah. Hey Scott, my pay from that.
Okay, to talk to Lori. Talk to Lori.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so not everyone will want or be able to work full time. Some people may only want or be able to work an hour or two per day to start, a few days a week when they begin competitive integrated employment. The good news is that the incentives that are available that we talked about earlier on these webinars, the incentives for both CIE or competitive integrated employment and for the paid integrated, the paid internship program are also available for part-time work as people sort of get their feet wet and build up their stamina and get accustomed to working. Okay. Hi, Mel.
How you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks. And Melanie's going to help us with the next part of our presentation. Okay. So again, when people only work at their jobs a few hours a day or a few days a week, they'll need additional structured activities to do in their community in order to fill out their day. And again, just some examples include enrolling in classes at college or adult school. And again, those could be PE classes. We've had people take swim classes, soccer classes, working out classes. Mel, you had dance classes, right?
Yeah, and swimming classes and drawing classes and stuff. And I majored in computer science.
Yep. So making sure that people have additional things to do during the day, community college is a great opportunity. If people are receiving SSI, they're able to qualify for low income and often to get their tuition paid for those classes. So that's something to look into. Also look through Parks and Rec, YMCA, your local, become a member of your local gym. Like Melanie, I know you're going to share, so you're a member of a gym right now and you go pretty much every day, right?
I go every day.
So you should be able to plan your daily and weekly schedule based on what you want to do. This can include working, volunteering, again, taking a college class or two, going to the gym, going out to eat. This is what person-centered services and self-determination is all about. Regional center services that can support you with these blended work, volunteer, and recreational activities include the Community Integration Program, an Adult Developmental Center, Behavior Management Day Program, Adaptive Skills, the Self-Determination Program, Supported Living Services, and Tailored Day Services. These are all examples of regional center funded services that are offered to adults with developmental disabilities. And again, this provides the flexibility for you to be able to have a full, meaningful day that can include paid employment, and other activities to make up a full day if you're not working full time. Supported employment services will assist you with job and career development and job coaching as needed on the job. If you work part-time and need additional supports outside of work, you can request those services through other service providers. The self-determination program also allows you to choose and pay for the specific services and supports that you want and need as determined in your person-centered plan and allocated in your budget. Okay, Melanie, that brings us to you.
Melanie Miles, my name. Why I need variety in my jobs? Because it gives me different opportunities to make different types of things and go different places and get certificates.
You like doing the same thing every day?
No,
No, that's not fun, right?
no, it's not fun.
You like that variety. Okay, so that's what you're going to talk about.
My life wasn't as fun 22 years ago. When I graduated high school, I started hearing voices, but it took the doctors a long time to figure out that I had schizophrenia on top of my autism. I gained 60 pounds in 1 year after starting to take new medications when I lived with my mom and dad. After moving into my own place, I wanted to be more independent, but I needed staff to come over and help me get up and get ready for my day. My family and support team helped me to achieve my goals of getting lots of volunteer and paid work. And I now go to the gym daily. My family supported me to move into my own place. First my sister and then my brother and were my roommates for the first 10 years.
And who's that a picture of?
That's pictures of my brother Robert, my mom Helen, my sister Stephanie, and that's me. First I lived in an apartment, then my family helped me to buy a condo. Now I live in my own house with Susie and her family. Variety helps me to forget about my voices and focus to focus on more important things. That was first, I was once maid of honor at my sister's wedding, and that's my maid of honor dress. Sheltering in my house for the first 2.5 months of the pandemic gave me time to focus on many things like yoga and Pilates.
And who's that you're doing it with?
Clea.
Okay.
I missed getting a paycheck and volunteering in my community, so I learned and practiced how to socially distance, wear a mask, and sanitize. That's me working in the office, sanitizing the desk. After 3 months, I was back working at the at Avenue's office, earning a paycheck, and finally got out of that pandemic and just went back to work.
Yep. And we figured out how to do it safely and responsibly, right?
Yeah, I didn't like the epidemic.
No, I don't think anybody did.
It was terrible.
Yep.
It took me a while to get in a healthy routine of going to the gym 6 days a week and doing yoga and Zumba. Everyone reminded me of my goal to live to be 100 and to get a new wardrobe when I meet my weight and goal. which helps me to motivate me to get up every day and go to the gym.
And now you're going to talk a little bit about what?
My senators,
Okay, well, yeah, that's a picture of your senator. Who's that?
Scott Wilkes.
Yep, so that's your senator, and that was in Sacramento, right?
Yes.
But then, and so
Minding
that's some of
my
the things you
own
do.
business.
So minding your own business. So in addition to your volunteer and your paid job, then what other ways do you have or what have you started to do to help make money?
I started my own crafts business.
Okay.
Melanie Miles Arts and Crafts.
All right, and that's what it's called. And Lori, do you want to come on and share a little bit about how she started that business?
Sure. So, Mel, do you remember why you wanted to start that business?
Because I wanted to earn money.
Well, but you could have earned money by delivering newspapers. What made you decide to do crafts?
Because I wanted to buy crafts and work on crafts and look online and stuff and have people buy them.
Yeah. So I think when we were looking at what kind of things you might enjoy, you enjoy going to craft fairs and things like that. So you had seen a lot of people with their displays. You had some friends who were already doing similar things, and you enjoyed doing crafty kind of activities. And so it was a perfect job for you to create. So you started your business. And then, like you just said, you're also selling some stuff online. And that became really important during COVID when there were no more craft fairs, right? Because your inventory was just sitting in the garage until you figured out how to get stuff online.
Yeah, me and Patty went one day. We were supposed to have the craft fair and we couldn't find the craft fair. So they weren't having it. So Cheryl wanted to sell her plants, but she couldn't because there was no craft fair.
Right, exactly. That was a shocker. So once we figured out that it was more than a hobby for you, we got lucky because we found a grant program that was specifically to help people with disabilities who had jobs related to any of the arts. So that would be actors, artists, authors, anything like that. There was a grant available to help people either start or expand their current business or to get more skills to be able to expand their current business. So we were able to get a grant for Melanie, $1,500, and that helped to buy your sign, right? And some business cards. And I don't think you don't own your Easy Up, right? You borrow ours?
Borrow ours.
Yeah. So, and you also got that shirt that you're wearing in that picture that has your logo on it. And I think you bought some totes and things to transport your crafts to different fairs. So that $1,500 really went a long way towards helping you to expand your business.
Yeah.
So now the money that you earn, that does not go into your regular checking account, right? That goes into your business money.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And then we use your business money to buy new materials, to rent out space and things like that, right?
Yes.
Yep. So is this a business that you still enjoy?
I do enjoy.
Are you thinking of shutting it down anytime in the future?
No, but whenever there's a craft fair, I'll be glad to sell my stuff.
Okay, excellent. Are you thinking of expanding to add more things, or are you satisfied with what you're doing right now?
I want to add more things.
Okay. Yeah. And Melanie got right back into the craft fairs as soon as they opened up again, which is just awesome.
So what's your business all about, Mel?
My business, what is my business all about? Selling and making different crafts like wreaths and holiday jars. I want to sell so I can get some more money. How much does it cost? The booths can cost between 15 and 50 at craft fairs. Supplies can cost about 15 to 30 a month. The banner and that kind of stuff cost money too.
Okay, and that was at one of our local libraries.
Yes. Do I always make a lot of money? Sometimes, but not always. Sometimes I ask people to buy and they just look. The last one I said some things.
You sold some things.
I sold some things.
And then this is something that's been really helpful, I think, for you, Melanie. You share this at a lot of conferences, and I thought it would be good for you to share this now as well, right?
Yeah, my checklist of expectations, I want my support staff to know. As my support staff, I expect you to take me to the gym every day, to ask my permission before making and answering personal phone calls, to restrict your personal phone calls to 2 minutes when you are supporting me, to speak English only when talking to coworkers or others when you are around me, to encourage and motivate me to my regular routines, to notice when I follow my diet and engage in healthy routines, to remind me to sit down, close my eyes and relax if I have eye spasms, to stay back, give me space when I am working at my job sites. When you stay back, I still want you to pay attention to me and make sure I am doing a good job and not get on your cell phone while I'm working.
All right, and this list of expectations, Melanie, I think we put this together many years ago because when Melanie had challenges with some of her staff, that she was experiencing some challenges. She happened to work at our office at the time, and you still do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she would come in and say, hey, I don't like it when my staff does this, and I don't like it when my staff does that. And she was really adamant about even, I want you to, talk to my staff about this. And we said, well, Melanie, just like you have a supervisor at your job, you're the supervisor of your staff, and it's really helpful if you're the one that gives them that feedback. And we helped Melanie to put together this list, and we've added to it over time, I think.
Yeah.
And whenever you get new support staff, you actually go over that with them, and then you have them sign it, and it goes in their personnel file. And it's a really powerful tool because that way Melanie knows that she's told them all these things, and if they have some difficulty following these expectations that she's set up, then you can say, hey, remember we went over that list. This is something that's important to me. I really want you to respect my expectations and follow through with that. And do you think this has been helpful?
Very helpful. And I want to say something to you, Scott. I colored my hair reddish blonde.
That looks awesome.
That was for the Sacramento trip.
Right, because we just went to Sacramento and you did your presentation there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, what's another conference you're going up to that you're saving your money for?
New Orleans, Louisiana.
New Orleans, Louisiana. When's that?
That's going to be in late November and December.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Yes, and my mom and my brother and my sister want to come.
All right.
They want to hear my presentation.
That'll be great. And because what's really special about New Orleans?
The seafood.
What else is special? What connection do you have with New Orleans?
I have relatives.
And
desserts.
were you born there?
I was born there. That's my hometown.
That's your hometown. So that's going to be really big. So I know you're really looking forward to that.
Yeah,
And you're saving money from your jobs to be able to do that. So that's great.
yeah. I'm putting money away every month. My
Mhm.
mom does my billing.
Oh, well, that one goes right here.
My mom's doing my billing with me.
Yep.
I put money away every month. And she does my billing, like she takes out a certain amount for the mortgage. And she takes a certain amount so she can put in my savings at their house and at my mom's house.
Excellent.
It's important to me to be in control of my budgeting money so I can plan what I can shop for and what trips I can take. My mom still helps me to calculate what I have to spend and what I need to save.
Absolutely. So again, like we talked about over the last few weeks in different webinars that focused on sort of budgeting, it's all person-centered. So Melanie, even before you moved into your own place, your mom helped you out with budgeting, right?
Yes, she did.
And while her mom is still able to do that, she wants to still help out with that. And so Melanie continues to spend time with your mom around your budgeting and depositing your paychecks and monitoring your bank account, right?
Yeah, I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana. All three of us, my sister, brother, and me. I'm the oldest.
Right. And you're
And I'm
looking
gonna be-
forward to it.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to be 52 this June.
Awesome. So, so not everyone is fortunate enough to have their mom help out with the finances. So again, there is a money management service that's available through the regional center. That's available to people that receive any services through the regional center or that are in the self-determination program as well. That's a service you can get. And again, there's a lot of different options. We've talked about a lot of them. But Melanie, again, you're still fortunate enough to do this with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the changes, since your mom is now retired, your mom used to always go and get the bank statements, but now you do that. You go to the bank with your support staff and get the bank statements and bring them to your mom, right?
Yeah, bring them to my mom, to my house, and to y'all.
Right. So again, Melanie's taken over a little bit more of that kind of responsibility since mom is retired, but mom's still involved, which I think is very cool.
Yeah, mom's having problems with her left knee. Her left knee is hurting. Sometimes her back hurts. She has to do this to get up.
Yeah.
She's 77 years old.
Yep. But still, she's doing well and still helping you with that.
Yeah, and she's going to be 78 September 4th.
Wow. Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions for Melanie about her business or jobs or anything that she's shared with you? Yes, Lori.
So there's a question saying, who does her taxes and is she saving?
My mom.
Who does your taxes?
My mom does my taxes.
Okay. And do you have an ABLE account?
Yes, I do.
Or just a regular account?
I have a regular account.
Yeah, I do not think you have an ABLE account. Melanie has I don't know why my right hand is raised. Melanie has a couple of siblings who can help her with money if needed. Sorry, now I'm clapping for you. My reactions are not good.
So yeah, and your brother and sister help out too. And like we talked about in the Social Security webinar, you know, we want to ensure that people's assets in their bank accounts, which includes both savings and checking, whatever people have, we want to make sure whatever those combined assets are, that they don't go over that $2,000, because that will be a red flag for Social Security.
Yeah. So the follow-up question was, how are you saving for the trip? And that is that she has a couple of siblings who help. Yeah. So when she has excess money, either her brother or her sister will.
They will save that money for her. And again, Don't tell Social Security, but they're saving that money for her in a separate account.
Right.
So that it's not in Mel's name, so that it won't be, won't count against her. But an ABLE account, like was shared last week, like Lori talked about, that is another option for people to utilize. If you don't have a sibling you trust, if you think your sibling, because your sibling's going to hold on to that money for you, they're not going to spend it on themselves, right?
No, they're gonna hold that money for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Melanie really trusts her siblings. They both.
Yeah, Melanie will come in, like when we are ready to buy the airplane ticket, she'll bring in an envelope of cash that we know how it was saved and where it's coming from, and then that pays for the plane ticket, and then another envelope for the hotel. And so she's got envelopes, cash envelopes designated that are being held onto by a sibling and then given back to us when we're ready to buy those items.
Yeah, this year, Lori, it's gonna be in New Orleans, Louisiana, where I'm from.
And you're saving your money because you want to go out some nice restaurants and do some nice things there, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I wanna have some of their desserts.
Boy,
And I think one of the advantages to having a job like Melanie's, where she sells in craft fairs, is that she's able to figure out how much money she needs and how many, Saturdays or Sundays or craft fairs or online sales it's going to take to get there. So she might, she might average one craft fair a month, but if she knows that she's going to New Orleans this year instead of Nevada, she's going to do 2 craft fairs a month this year so that she can get enough money. And by not having a boss assigning her hours, but by being her own boss and choosing which fairs to go to, she can control she can't really control how much money she makes because it depends on how much she sells at each fair, but she can certainly control how many fairs she's going to.
And who's your boss in your business?
Scott.
Well, no, yeah. Who's your boss of your business?
Melanie.
That's right.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Who's your boss at Avenue's office? Yes, Scott.
Right. Yeah. But for your own business, you work as much as you want.
I work really hard here at the office every Tuesday.
Yep. You do great. And then the craft fair, you're your own boss, so you decide when you want to work. That's what Lori's been sharing. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, I wanna sell some more craft. She gave me some more stuff to do.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, Mel, I have another box too. I'll give you. So.
Oh, she's got another box.
She's got another box. Can we take
Yeah,
it?
after this, Mel.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Melanie.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right, you can send that again, okay? All right. So again, thanks to Melanie for sharing a little bit about having her own business and having just, again, a variety in your life. I think Melanie also provides that real good example of why it's important that many people don't want to work and go to the same place every day, whether it's a job, whether it's a day program, whether it's paid or volunteer. They like to have some variety, and that is definitely Melanie. Melanie did not enjoy seeing the same people doing the same thing every day. She really likes that variety. But on the other hand, she also needs a meaningful day, things that are important to her, and a structured day. It's not healthy to stay at home all day. So she needs that full day in the community. And she has that blended day that includes paid work, volunteer work, and going to the gym, finding a place to have lunch, and all those things together can make a full day. And that's just really critical and really important to her. So that's another way that we need to make sure that we're individualizing the supports we provide and think about person-centered services. So instructional experiences that we should be providing to youth and adolescents, include integrated volunteer and paid work experiences, because these assist people to develop their resumes and prepare them for a career. The more volunteer and paid work experiences our youth have, the better. And they should be getting these experiences while they're still in school. We also need to teach and practice public transportation skills and destination travel training. So providing experiences where people are learning to take the bus. They're taking the bus, whether it's to the movie theater, to the mall, and ultimately to their jobs, to a community college class, things like that. Those are going to be really important. We want to try to identify paid and volunteer experiences that are meaningful to the person's future and that will motivate them to be actively engaged. And this is my friend, Buddy Whitehorse.
Gotcha.
Yep. And how long have I known you? How long have we known each other?
1981.
Since 1981 when he was in high school. So he's got a long career of working, and he's going to share a little bit about that. But let me think. I think I have one more slide here first. Okay. So one thing we've also learned when we first got started, we got a federal grant that assisted us to have some job development expertise for 3 years to assist people on the autism spectrum to get jobs in the community. And that was back from 1989 through 1991. So that dates me. But one of the important things we found is that it takes an average of 3 job placements to help people figure out what they want to do. Okay. We shouldn't view a job loss as as something that's bad, okay, as a mistake or something. Sometimes people leave jobs because they learned that that's not what they want to do. Sometimes people leave jobs because maybe they were terminated, and that hopefully becomes a learning experience for the person. But sometimes it's just not a good job match. And we need to learn from the mistakes. We need to learn from what worked and what didn't work on each job, and so that we can get better at helping people figure out what a better job match might be. And also sometimes people might, they just need those experiences as they move up their career ladder. They start at something entry level and then move something that's a little more complex. And the example that you heard in our first couple webinars with Jarrett, again, his first long-term successful job was at Six Flags, just like Toby. And then he moved on to Target and worked there another 5 years. And now he's currently at Kohl's, where he's working indoors and doing the returns through their Amazon system over at Kohl's, and he's really enjoying that. And you never know where he's going to be another 5-10 years from now, but he's developing the confidence and experience he needs to pursue the career that he wants. So again, even a failed job experience can teach you and your team more about what worked and what didn't work in that job experience. So don't just focus on the fact that something might not have worked, or that a person maybe lost a job placement or didn't want to work there anymore. It's really, what did we learn about that? And how can we use that to our benefit and to the person's benefit in future job development? All right, I'm going to turn it over to you.
With the Whitehorse.
Okay.
And then in my own apartment by myself. I am 92, got to the 68 housing voucher over 25 years ago. I pay my own bills and shop for myself. I moved to my new apartment in Castaic last year. I am closer to my new jobs. What promise for me? Knowing when to do a good job. Write things down so that I understand better. Give me time to process. It bothers me when people say my name too much.
All right, and thanks for sharing these. And if you notice, this is information that we got right off of his one-page support guide, which is one of the tools that we emailed to you. and which we shared earlier in this presentation. So again, what's important to him, this really is helpful to share with potential coaches and coworkers on the job and a supervisor on the job as well. And here's another one, another section that again comes from that one-page support guide. So what works for you?
What works for me? Show me what to do. Don't talk too much because it confuses me. I'm not working independently. Write it down for me instead of telling me. Unlike janitorial gardening and landscaping work, where I can work with my hands.
Mhm. So again, it's really helpful to have information like this and to be able to share it with coworkers, job coaches, and supervisors on the job. And again, we've got that one-page support guide that we shared earlier. It's real simple to do, but get together with the team and have it be a team approach and include everyone on that team to help get some good information. And just a reminder, it's also good to update it and revise it and add things at least on an annual basis, because there's more things that we usually find out that we can add.
I graduated from Seal High School in 1984. I have always worked since then. I worked on the building crew, maintenance, and apartment complex, landscaping, and canyon landscaping, and janitorial for groundworks.
And that's, I think, a picture of you years ago over at Kenyon Landscaping, right?
Right. I did janitorial work for groundworks for almost 5 years. They gave me an award for the quality of my work. I worked in Japanese gardening, but they closed during the pandemic.
Yeah, and they never really fully opened after that. It was really open to public use, and now they're still just doing private kind of stuff. So the pandemic really threw them for a loop. And yeah, so you lost that job that you were working at there pre-pandemic, right?
Right. Now I have 5 CIE jobs.
You have 5 jobs?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Landscaping as Sloan County working as an IHSS provider for 3 people, gardening for 2, and cleaning for the 3rd, and janitorial at the news office.
So one thing that we found out, since you really enjoy doing cleaning and gardening, right?
Right.
He is eligible and is now an IHSS worker. If you have someone that has those skills, one thing that is important is that if you're an IHSS worker, you cannot receive IHSS yourself. And he's got all those skills, those independent living skills. He's never been eligible for in-home support services because he's pretty independent at your own place.
Yeah.
And he can do his own cleaning and dressing and get out and about on your own, right?
Right.
So he can do all those skills. So he's never received in-home support services. Now, if he did, he would not be eligible to be an IHSS worker. But since he's never received them, we assisted you to go through the orientation. I guess now it's been a couple years. And I went through the orientation and is now a worker, a provider of IHSS services. And in fact, you just provided IHSS for someone in the Valley today.
Yeah.
What did you do at David's apartment?
Cleaning.
Right. So you do cleaning every week on Thursdays.
Yeah.
And another person on Mondays that lives in a house, he actually does the gardening
Yeah,
And on Tuesdays, a third person in a house that you also do the gardening for, right?
yeah.
And
Artist.
at the office. And then you also do the landscaping at Sloan on Monday evenings.
Yeah,
And what do you do on Fridays?
mopping and cleaning tables
Where?
in the Avenues office.
So you work at the Avenues office on Friday. So he gets a separate check from Avenues. So again, adding them all together, he's got 5 separate jobs and that he's able to work at every week. And you enjoy working.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, let me move this out of the way so you can read that.
I needed to have cataract surgery in 2022, and I have enough money saved from the job to pay my new connected lenses so I can see better without needing to wear glasses.
All right, and something else that you and several of your families have. What else do you
Eye
experience?
surgery.
But and you have
Glaucoma.
glaucoma, and with glaucoma, one of the challenges with glaucoma, he takes eye drops, and you had some surgeries for that.
Yeah,
Okay, to help relieve that pressure. And one of the things that we found out early on in supporting him is he had an optometrist initially that just wanted him to wear glasses. Do you like wearing glasses?
no, wait them,
They got broken twice, right?
wait,
If you got another pair, what would happen?
wait them, broke them.
Yeah, they get broken again. So we knew that glasses weren't really an option. And what was exciting is that his new ophthalmologist, eye specialist, has, you know, when it came time, he said, hey, he's got cataracts, but one of the options, if we just went straight through his insurance, through Medi-Cal, Medicare, it would pay for a clear lens that would be inserted as a replacement lens for the cataracts. Because when you have cataracts, you have to suck out the bad lens that's cloudy.
Yeah,
But he had money saved up that he was able to use that work money to be able to pay for the panoptic lenses, which are like blended bifocals that he now has. And your vision's 20/20 now.
yeah,
And what do you like to buy?
So let's just add, Scott, let's just add that he also has a sibling who helps hold on to money.
Yes, he also has a sibling that pulls out 500 here, 500 there when he gets close to that 2,000 limit. So it's nice to have a sibling, or you can develop a pass plan like Lori talked about last week, or the ABLE account is another option. But a sibling, it's a good option too. Okay. So you were able to pay for that, and now you have 20/20 vision.
yeah.
And what do you like to buy every day that you like to read?
Look, newspaper,
Yep. So he still likes the old-fashioned newspaper. And
which,
it was getting hard to read and without wearing some sort of corrective lenses.
yeah,
But with these new panoptic lenses, it's been easier, huh?
yes,
Okay, so that's really improved his quality of life. And again, his work, just the fact that he's had work and been able to save up money through his jobs, it's been a tremendous positive impact on his quality of life, especially as we're all maturing, as we're getting older, right? Okay. Okay, let me move that out of the way. There you go.
I'm enjoying making presentation at conference and visit the state legislature.
And where did we go last week?
The conference.
And last week on March 21st, where did we go?
No. In Sacramento.
Sacramento. So he actually helped provide some testimony to a Senate Budget Committee hearing about the Department of Developmental Services and why services are important to him. And he had only a short time to present, but he was able to share about how services he receives help him to have a job, and coordinate the support he needs to be able to live in his own place and things like that, right?
Right.
So you went out to support the regional center and the system and how things are working for you. And again, our big focus was we really need the system to be fully funded. And we're worried the governor is going to try to delay some of the increases that were promised to services. But anyhow, he does a great job advocating, and you've gone up several times now to Sacramento as well as your local offices to talk to legislators. And we usually bring a tablet or a laptop so that he can share the pictures like you just saw.
Also love the outdoors.
Yep. You also love the outdoors and experiencing things outdoors and outside. Anything else you'd like to add?
No.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Whitehorse? And Lori, any other comments?
I don't see questions yet. And
Yeah, and you are one of the persons that I know that he would just work for free. He really enjoys working. He enjoys the quality of what he does. He's very meticulous in the work he does. He always does above and beyond what's in the job description. And again, not everybody's like that. Not all of us are like that, but he sure does. He really looks painstakingly at the quality of the work he does and make sure that everything is done well. And
yeah,
sometimes we'll add things to the description. Sometimes we need to clarify if he's doing a little bit too much to stay out of certain areas because he wants to do more. But his motivation is just coming from his family, how he was raised. He just feels that it's important to work. And
at the Caltash conference, an audience member asked him what he likes to do for fun, and he said clean, and it was true. We had to help clarify the question and ask him what he does for fun in his bedroom at night at home, and he was able to say word searches. But the first things that pop into his head are cleaning and gardening and all of the things that most of us consider work.
Yeah, and that's and so we want to make sure you realize that he's not being stereotyped in those kind of jobs. Those are things you actually majored in horticulture at Reseda High School.
Yeah.
And that was a passion of his back then. Then he continues to love the gardening and cleaning and anything he can do in that area with your hand.
He's one of those people who will pick up the trash in the parking lot if you walk past it. He just likes things to be where they belong.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we're winding down on today's webinar session.
Oh, that went fast.
Yeah, that did go fast. All right. So again, if you're interested in more information, or if you'd like to sign up for additional consultation hours related to competitive integrated employment or the paid internship program, or how to develop functional IPP or even IEP goals that will lead to better employment outcomes, we can provide some additional consulting to you, to family members, to teams, and to agencies. Again, you don't have to bill anything for it. The regional center doesn't have to bill for it. We are being paid through the grant to provide this. You must have somebody within that team who's a consumer of North LA County Regional Center to be eligible, but you're going to simply contact us at the email below, cieinfo@avenuessls.org, if you're interested in any additional problem solving or support. We can either meet with you in person or meet with you over Zoom and try to provide some ways to think outside the box and to coordinate those services in the way that would best meet your needs or the needs of your family member or the person you support.
I think also some people are part of organizations and groups that include North LA family members. And we could do in services, like if you're interested in the one-page support guide or something like that, we can attend an in-person or a Zoom meeting and really do a workshop, a sharing time for family members to work on that for their loved ones, or for the guys to work on one for themselves, or things like that. So it doesn't have to be a one-to-one. It can also be for a small group.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so we only have one more session left. That'll be next Thursday, focusing primarily on job development. We focused on job matching this week, but next week we'll talk about job development. We'll have some more speakers that will be sharing their stories and what they've done, including someone that's had success in the paid internship program. So again, here's more ways that you can contact or share with people to sign up for our webinars. If you're not sure, you can always go to our website, which is www.avenuessls.org. And we appreciate
One more thing, when you're on the Zoom link and it lists the dates of the webinars, it does have one listed for, I think it's June 30th. That's a placeholder for us so that we don't lose the attendance data. So next week is the last one. The one that you see that's a date like towards the end of June, that's just our placeholder so that this series doesn't get deleted.
Right. So so next week will be our last official webinar, but then we can also share. After next week, we'll be able to share recordings of these and other webinars that we've done, and as well as the translated ones in the language we spoke about. So everybody have a great week, and we hope to see you all next week.
Scott, I have one more thought. When we've just brought 2 people in who don't have ABLE accounts because they have families that save. But another way that we've helped other people who don't have family members is that we will pay for the trip in parts. So this upcoming New Orleans trip in November, we might reserve the hotel room now, and that gets that money out of the way. And then we might get the plane ticket in, July, because she's got another chunk of money. And then when she finally gets around to going in November, she really just needs the spending money. So we've done things like that to pre-purchase parts of a trip. Same thing for like a Hawaii trip or things like that. So that's not dependent on having a reputable, safe family member.
But yeah, that way we make sure that people don't lose any of that money, any of their work earnings, simply because any of their assets are going up over that limit that Social Security looks at. We find creative ways to make down payments on things a chunk at a time to make sure they keep under that limit and are still working towards their goal of a vacation trip or a conference or something that they really are looking forward to, like Melanie shared. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Anything else, Lori? Are we good?
Nope, we're good.
All right. We will stop the recording.